And welcome back. We are on episode 13, if you guys can believe it, of the Y Ball Starters podcast. Lucky number 13. I'm here with my co-hosts,
Lucky
John
number
LaValle
13.
and Kendall
Hey.
Krang. It's just going to be us three tonight, but we're going to have a great time, great conversation. We're recording this on Tuesday, April 27th. We're going to talk about Anfernee Simons, who tonight he almost got an NBA record. He hit his first 9 threes in the game the Blazers really needed to win, and they finally got a win over the Pacers tonight. We're going to talk about some of the worst takes we've seen this season from irrational Blazers fans. Maybe that'll even tie into some of our own takes because we've had some bad ones. We'll do our classic Where Are They Now and Blazer Killers. And then we're going to kind of look back at our first 12 episodes, talk about some of our favorite parts, call each other out for some of the horrible mistakes we've made. And we'll also just we want you guys to get to know us a little more too. So we'll just share some personal stories, maybe from high school, something embarrassing, since we've all known each other for quite a long time. As I mentioned, though, I am here with my co-hosts, John LaValle and Kendall Krang. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. Fresh off a shift, slinging some bean juice. So living large today. I just got a gym membership for the first time since before COVID. So that's cool. I was able to go get a good sweat in earlier today. So catch your boy looking thick.
Oh,
yeah. How
John
are you
out here
guys?
trying to impress.
Of course.
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I was also at the glorious house of Gaines earlier, but more importantly, I did finish my finals for spring term. And let's just say,
go.
you know the saying, C's get degrees is really starting to become a very relevant statement for me over this senioritis year. It has been rough.
Yeah. Kendall, where do you go to college?
I'm really
for our
sorry,
listeners?
GPA. I go to, for those watching, I'm a Sun Devil. I'm a Sun Devil out here. Let's go ASU, baby. I do go to the computer version of ASU, though. The one that you do over the screen, the online version. Unfortunately, that many of us have gotten accustomed to over the last year.
Yes. So for the listeners at home, Kendall works at Starbucks and attends the biggest party school in America online. Per our intro, goes to Arizona State online.
We have some giant internet raves. I mean, honestly, though, what's more prestigious, Arizona State online or Multnomah University? Or I'm sorry, the Multnomah University.
Okay. Well, I mean, they are meeting in person. Take with that as you will.
All 10 of them?
That's
all.
Well, and that's why they're meeting in person, because John's internet just froze.
That's why they're meeting in person.
They have to meet in person.
Does this mean that I win by default?
We didn't even bring my school into it. We are millions of dollars in a budget deficit, but ahead in everyone's heart. Eastern Washington University, my pride and joy alma mater.
Are you really though? I mean, it seems like everybody's leaving for a different school at this point.
Well, I'm proud of my school, but my girlfriend's brother did recently ask if he should go to Eastern, and my girlfriend and I both emphatically said, no, you shouldn't. But I still wear my Eagles gear with pride and will relive the glory days of the NCAA tournament run we had this year and the fun times I had covering them when I was sports editor there.
Yeah, that's true. And your one chance to go to the NCAA tournament possibly, of course, got shut down. So there is that side of it as well.
Yes.
Of course.
I don't know if I've told this story. I was the sports editor of Eastern Washington University student newspaper, The Easterner, in 2019, 2020. I got to go to some pretty cool places. I got to go to the University of Washington football game that Eastern played. I got to go down to Moscow, Idaho for a football game. I got to go to University of Montana for a football game. I got to go to Gonzaga for a basketball game. Eastern played Gonzaga. That was really fun. And the one time I got to travel that wasn't a place accessible by car was going to be the Big Sky tournament in Boise. And I actually did fly down on the Wednesday. So the tournament runs Wednesday through Sunday, but it's an 11-team tournament and Eastern got a bye. So I didn't fly down until like Wednesday evening because Eastern got a bye into the Thursday quarterfinal and they were going to play a Thursday matinee game. So I get down there on that Wednesday, and the women's semifinals are going on, and I figured I'd just walk over to the arena where the Big Sky tournament's happening, CenturyLink Arena in downtown Boise, Idaho. And so I walk down there, the women's semifinals going on. It's Idaho against Idaho State. I'm interested in the game a little bit, but more just to kind of get the feel for the arena, because I knew I was going to possibly be there for, 3-4 days in a row, depending on how far Eastern made it. They were the 1 seed, so expected to make it far, if not win it. And I get there and I'm sitting in the stands, just kind of catching my bearings, figuring stuff out, taking in the game. And I get a notification on Twitter. And I see it's from one Adrian Wojnarowski. And it says, Utah Jazz center Rudy Gobert has tested positive for coronavirus. And as many basketball fans know what happened from there, within the next 24 hours, the NBA suspended its season. March Madness was canceled. Every conference tournament was canceled. I was watching this all from my little motel room in Boise, figuring out, well, I guess I'm flying home tonight. The university actually came through, did me a solid, and got me a flight like that afternoon. I was like, shoot, am I going to just kind of be stuck here until like the end? Because I wasn't flying out till Sunday morning. Because, the trip originally planned. And yeah, I was back 24 hours later, and my girlfriend picked me up from the airport and was like, that was quick. And I'm like, yeah, that was one of the stranger experiences I've ever had.
That was a crazy time. Like, I imagine for you, obviously, it was a bit different being a sports journalist over there, but even for me, just watching it go on, I'm sorry, I can't get over John's face. Being
That was awesome.
So excited.
Who got stuck?
John, I don't know how much caffeine you had today, but you just look amped today.
I had 1 cup at 8 a.m.
Wow. That is better than my 5 shots.
Very little.
That's
better than my 5 shots of decaf that I had.
You drink decaf coffee?
I'm a baby. I can't do caffeine anymore, so I just do decaf shots.
Are you too old? Oh,
dude, I'm a 7. John, I don't even want to deal with this right now. Anyways, talking about important things. When the coronavirus hit, it was one of the most odd experiences just watching everything get shut down so quick, because you watch these events go on and you just assume that they're going to happen no matter what. You just think, oh, sports will go on forever. But in reality, it's extremely fragile, the nature of it, and watching it get shut down as quickly as it did, and watching it just, I don't know. It was just really interesting watching everything just, I don't know, just not happen all of a sudden.
Yeah, it was kind of surreal. I remember I was watching, it was the first time I was going to be able to watch a basketball game, because I usually work in the evenings. So it was the first time I was going to be able to watch a game in like 2 weeks or something. So I got super excited. I sat down, and the first game I watched was whatever game was on TV when the Jazz thing happened. I think it was like Dallas and someone. And just watching like the fabrics of our society crumble, and watching that through basketball perspective, it felt like it all happened within a span of like 30 to 45 minutes. It was so bizarre, because like then we got like the notification that Tom Hanks had COVID, which for some reason seemed to be the first big tipping stone. So it was very weird to see the Utah notification, and then notice that Dallas like refused to come back out of the locker room or something. Some team did. I don't remember if it's Dallas or not. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the NBA is like, yeah, we got to suspend it, like all in the span of within an hour and a half, just to see that all unfold. It is kind of surreal. Like you were talking about, Kendall. You don't assume sports get impacted by the big life events that are happening, but obviously like they do. I mean, they're part of life.
Yeah, exactly. And it is funny how basketball, like you said, it was kind of Tom Hanks and then also Rudy Gobert, who played the two biggest roles because everything
Yes.
everything
Yeah.
else shut down after that. It really was NBA that kind of got the ball rolling for things shutting down. Obviously, not saying that was the cause, but that did seem to kind of be what started at least the whole the sports world. Because I think soccer was the next delay, and then baseball, and just kind of went from there.
Yeah.
But all because of Rudy Gobert.
It is pretty crazy how it shows how sports have become such a big part of our culture that it took an NBA player getting a virus that at the time we knew really nothing about at all
Yeah.
to suddenly like be like, oh, okay, we're going to take this super seriously and the world's going to shut down. And within 2 weeks, we're all going to be stuck inside our houses.
Yep.
But fortunately, over a year later, we do have sports again. Still not completely back to normal. We at least have an NBA playoff race going on right now. And the Blazers had been poor. 3-7
really?
in the last 10 games. They had been poor. Portland has fallen all the way to 7th place, a game behind Dallas.
Up to 3-7. They were 2-8.
Exactly. But tonight, Portland did finally break a 5-game losing streak with a nice 133-112 win over the Indiana Pacers in a game that was actually more of a blowout than even that. The third stringers actually got outscored by like 20. The story of the game, hands down, was Anfernee Simons, who hit his first 9 threes. That was almost setting an NBA record. He finished 9 of 10.
Ooh, let's go.
27 points. Portland gets the win, snaps that win streak. Unfortunately for Portland fans, Dallas did beat Golden State pretty handily tonight, so they stay a game ahead. And Portland does have that tiebreaker, which can end up being that's pretty important because obviously with the new play-in tournament this year, 6th place means you don't have to be in the play-in tournament. 7th place means you do. But yeah, how about that from Anfernee, guys?
Man, he can knock it down.
Is insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. Him hitting 9 threes in a game, I guess that's still crazy though. I mean, he's a good shooter. I don't want to knock him at all. He's a very, very good shooter, but man, 9 threes, that's a tough accomplishment. Stats have kind of cheapened as of late, just with how the scoring has happened and how Steph Curry is shooting.
Yeah.
Regardless of hitting 9 of 9 to start, hitting 9 in a game is a huge accomplishment, especially for a bench player. So great game by him. That's got to be his career. It's not even his career high in points, but in threes, it obviously is career high.
He tied an NBA record for most consecutive threes made in a row without a miss. So that's crazy. Good for him. I will give Ant credit. He has shot the ball well this year. I think I saw over the last 2 months he's been shooting 43%, I want to say, on decent volume shooting. He's shown flashes of better defense. He's shown growth this year. And I think that he's shown that he could be a nice little flamethrower off the bench, kind of like we were all hoping he would be, but just kind of hadn't seen. And I'm sure we'll talk more about this later, but it's maybe with a different coach and a different just play style rotations next season, assuming that we have him, I think that he could be in line for a fairly decent season.
Yeah, and I think you would expect him to have a bigger role on the team next year anyway. Kind of regardless of who stays and who goes. At this point, I think we are kind of assuming, unless Portland just goes on this amazing run and just actually makes some noise in the playoffs, which I still don't really have very high hopes for, but you never know depending on matchups, but it's not looking good. For one, you assume, obviously we're not talking about the same positions, but just looking at the bench, you would assume Carmelo Anthony's gone. We don't know if Derek Jones Jr., with Stotts kind of just disregarding him recently, if he'll opt back and look to go somewhere else. We don't know if Norman Powell will be back. And if Portland, kind of flops in the playoffs, say they get swept or lose in 5, or even lose in the play-in tournament, you look at, does this mean the end of the line for the Damon CJ, or does Portland look to move on from CJ? Does Norman Powell resign? just with all those question marks and Anfernee being a promising young player, along with Nasir Little, kind of our two promising young guys, you would expect them to have a bigger role next year. And yeah, if it's a new coach, a new play style who can maybe use Anfernee's strengths more, I would like to see Anfernee develop a little bit more of an off the dribble game and like to see him add a few more pounds of muscle because he's so athletic. I mean, we saw with him winning the dunk contest. He could really be an awesome spark off the bench with now he's proven he's a good shooter and he's going to have that. He would be really hard to stop if he had a floater, could take it to the rim and finish with contact. That's the next step in his game, I think. And obviously he does have to work on his defense like most young guards do these days anyway.
Yeah.
I agree. I think he reminds me a ton of a dude like Jordan Clarkson.
Oh yeah.
He's never going to be a good defender. And I think that's okay. It's not really his game. It's for himself, then I mean that takes him to another level. That moves him from being a bench shooter to being someone that you can have go lead the second unit, which I think is possible. I mean, you could tell just from last year to this year, the jump went from being a strictly garbage time player, and he was only capable of being a garbage time player, to being someone that could give big minutes in give good minutes in big games. Come out there and play 20 minutes in a game that we need to win. And I think it's crazy to think that he could take another step in this offseason. I mean, he's still he's 22, 23 right now. So he's still really young.
I think he's only 21
or 21. Yeah, because he's out of high school. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's 21.
Yeah.
I do think it's kind of an interesting and kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent here. You look at a guy like Anfernee, and the hopes were really high for him going into last season, where we thought he had played so well in Summer League. We kind of thought that's where he was going to make his jump, was into last season, and it just didn't end up happening. And like you said, he ended up being a garbage time only player. And I think that made our expectations for this year for him extremely low. And a lot of people were saying he's the worst player in the league, which for a little bit of time, him and Hazonia playing together might have been the two worst players in the league on the court at the same time together. But I do think it makes for an interesting argument that for guys coming straight out of high school, is it really the right route? Unless if you are a top elite talent, because they just don't get that playing time in the NBA. Whereas if he went through college, he would get more of that playing time, more of that experience. Like he's not even the same age that Dame was when Dame came out of Weber State into NBA. Now I know those are two completely different players, but when you look at it, would it help players like an Anfernee Simons to even just get a year in at college and get that full playing time against other collegiate players who are going to the draft rather than just coming out of high school and just getting practice time?
That's a really interesting point, because you look at the current status of the NBA draft. I mean, some of the top prospects are G League Ignite guys. You think of Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga is right.
Yeah.
G League Ignite. But the somewhat consensus, I mean, experts still kind of differ on what the top five might exactly shape up like. But what a lot of people think the top three is going to be is Cade Cunningham, Jalen Suggs, and Evan Mobley. Cade Cunningham stuck it out with his college despite possible sanctions coming down. They did end up getting knocked out in the round of 32, but he had this season where he was far and away the best player on a team that ended up being a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
And now he's locked. He didn't hurt his status. Jalen Suggs obviously made himself a lot of money with his shot in the Final Four.
Yeah.
He certainly did not. And there were people who were saying with the uncertainty of this COVID year, like, dude, you should maybe go play G League Ignite or go to the G League or go overseas or something and decommit from Gonzaga. He stuck it out, helped him get to the national championship and almost go undefeated. And now there's an argument to be made. He's the number 1 pick. He probably won't be. He'll probably be second or third, but now people are looking at him like he's going to be a star. Evan Mobley for USC is the other guy, and they went to the Elite Eight, and they just destroyed teams like Kansas and Oregon. And so, still in college, you still can up your stock. You see that with the top 3 guys. And you look at a guy like Davion Mitchell, who was, a fringe first round pick for a lot of the season. He goes out and just has an absolutely incredible performance in the Final Four in the national championship. And now ESPN's big board has him 8th. So just a remarkable jump. And you still only see in the lottery, for instance, or in the top 10, it's just Green and Kuminga right now. The rest are college players who had teams that made the NCAA tournament. That's still where you're going to get the most exposure right now because you're on TV all the time. You're on ESPN, you're on Fox, you're on CBS if you're in the Big Ten. I still think college is a very, very good option for these guys, especially now that we're probably going to be at a place where in the next 5 years you can make money off your likeness. I think that is a huge point to be made because let's be honest, that's about one of the most corrupt things about the NCAA right now, if not the most corrupt thing, is that players are not allowed to make money off their likeness. That's ridiculous, especially with how much money.
Can.
Yes, but schools can, with the fact that like a guy for Gonzaga, like a Suggs, can just now start making money now that he's declared for the NBA draft, but he couldn't do anything with the run that he was on. Same with a guy like Cunningham or Mobley, who couldn't, like, fans could buy their jersey, not with their name on their back, but like they could buy their number jersey and they didn't make a dime off it. That's ridiculous to me.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it's crazy that they can't. Like, I get the not paying them because of them being college athletes. Like, I do get that, but not being able to sign endorsement deals when they're making other people millions of dollars just seems totally unfair. Like, they're making millions of dollars. Like, why are they disallowed to touch it just because they play a sport? Like, if they were someone that was making millions of dollars, like streaming on Twitch or making YouTube videos, like the college couldn't say anything about it. But because they're playing the sport for the college, like all of a sudden, I know they're just disallowed. It seems, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's corrupt, but it doesn't seem fair at very least.
No, yeah, it doesn't. I did find it funny that a lot of these players, like the two off the top of my head are Jalen Suggs and Evan Mobley, used NFTs that they sold to declare their draft status. I'm like using it right away, trying to find a way to make money right off the bat. And it's crazy that college players aren't able to use their likeness. I'm with John. I could see why the college can't directly pay them or the NCAA directly pay them, but to not be able to use their own likeness and make money off it, sign autographs, deals, I don't understand it.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the benefits of G League Ignite. For the listeners that don't know, the G League Ignite is it's a team like built specifically for younger players that want to go a different route that's not college. So players like Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Green, was that the other guy or is that the Duke guy?
Yeah.
No,
Jalen Green.
Players that want to have a year of competitive basketball where they can train, but not necessarily like college route. So I do like that has become a bigger option. Just the G League in general has been a lot better since becoming the G League from the D League. They've done a lot, and I'd like to see them continue to expand to give players the option of players that know they want to go to the NBA. Forcing them to go to a school for 1 year does seem kind of arbitrary. I know they get the experience there, but as far as school wise, it doesn't make a ton of sense. So having another option to get competitive playing time and to get opportunities to learn and grow with other NBA quality people, I think is kind of cool. So hopefully they expand the G League, add more teams like that, or at least figure out a more another route for players.
Well, what
and
that
I
makes
do
me
think that
think
it
of is have you guys heard about this new overtime league?
What's that?
Overtime.
No, I haven't.
The Overtime Elite League, they're gonna I'm like pulling up a New York Times article right now, but it's kind of like soccer academies a little bit that they do overseas, where they're actually going to be providing salaries to players that might want to try and do it. And we'll see if it really gets much traction, but that they're trying to make it another option, this Overtime Elite League. And it's a high school basketball league that players would have to give up their high school and college eligibility to play in it. but
wow.
you get paid $100K. 16 to 18-year-olds. I think they pick 30 is what it looks like this article says. 30 players can play, and see if there's another way. They're also going to receive equity in the company. The players would, to help incentivize them. They would actually get some.
That's
that would be part of their salary, and they'd also get health benefits and stuff. Where I think programs like this Overtime Elite or the G League Ignite is what they're really going to have to figure out to become a sustainable option. Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga are going to have to be good in the NBA. That's going to be a big thing. Like, they're going to have to prove that they are on the level of someone like a Jalen Suggs, or even someone who gets picked 6th or 7th, like Jalen Johnson or Keon Johnson, or even a Davion Mitchell. Like, Jalen Green and Kuminga are going to have to prove that they're on the level of those guys, or at least near it. Also, the G League Ignite Overtime Elite, they're going to have to figure out exposure, because college basketball still has the monopoly on the ESPN games and the CBS games and the Fox games. And as much as it seems like Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga are good players, and G League Ignite may turn out to be a great option for them, I'm going to watch Duke and North Carolina, if they're both powerhouses, 10 out of 10 times over a random G League Ignite game. They're going to have to figure out a way to incentivize someone like us to watch the game.
Yeah, and actually, you bring that up. I was going to mention that too, is that college basketball is just so much more marketable than the G League is right now. And I agree with you. I would be willing to watch. I'd probably watch a mid-major game before I watch G League. I really honestly could care absolutely less, because to me, it just feels like a scrimmage game. They're not really playing for anything in my eyes. Even if they do have their own tournaments in the G League, I could care less. And I really can't tell you that I know anything about those two players who are in the G League, because quite frankly, I didn't really care to watch them. They aren't going to be drafted by my team. So for sure, the G League and this Overtime League that you brought up, which I'll have to do more research on that. That's very interesting. They will need to figure out a way how to create their own moment, and it won't happen right away. And I don't think it'll ever really challenge college basketball, but how can you at least create, like you said, some incentive, some sort of tournament that's interesting, some sort of way to connect them to the NBA, I guess. I don't really know how they would do it, but they're going to need to make it more interesting.
Definitely. Well, yeah, we'll see, especially with this upcoming draft class. It'll be really interesting. We'll move on segments here. One segment we want to do is Blazer fans, like many sports fans, are rather irrational. And as we know, the past 3 weeks have not looked good for Portland, with a lot of losses to key teams. Portland still just cannot beat a team above 500. Can't do it, which really is a concerning trend. But, when this happens, people play the blame game, including ourselves. A lot of the blame, people say, I think rightly personally, lies with Terry Stotts. And it seems like he's just kind of lost the team a little bit. Some people blame players. Some people blame management, meaning front office management. Some people blame play style or players or whatnot. But what are some of the worst takes you guys have seen as to blame, to pin on the Blazers' struggles? Some of the worst takes you've seen from fans or online forum boards that have just cast blame, and you're like, what? That's not why Portland's struggling. And again, Portland won tonight, so hopefully that gets a turnaround.
Well, I went through Twitter and Blazers Edge a little bit and picked out a few comments that I'd like to share over the last couple days after our 5-game losing streak that really emphasized the feeling and emotions of the fan base very well, because yes, Blazer fans are very over emotional. We had one right here on Twitter where this guy says, I remember the days when us fans looked happy. Damian Lillard cursed us and took all the spotlight from our true rising stars, Rodney Hood, Al-Farouq Aminu, Gary Trent, and more. We have created a team of selfish youngins who don't know a thing about team ball. Pathetic. Really a shame that Dame took
this guy would rather have Al-Farouq Aminu and Rodney Hood than Damian Lillard right now.
Yes, because they are true rising stars.
Isn't Al-Farouq Aminu older than Damian Lillard?
That's irrelevant. He's our young rising star.
Have you guys heard anything about Al-Farouq Aminu except for that he was hurt since he left Portland?
He's no longer on the Magic. Isn't he on the Bulls?
Was he part of that trade?
Is he?
See, we don't even know.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Him and Rodney Hood have been like literally injury prone for the last 3 years combined now.
Oh, and Rodney Hood wears number 32 now. It looks awful.
32.
And
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks because Rodney Hood was so awesome for us pre-Achilles tear. He really was a great piece, and you can just tell that Achilles tear hit him pretty hard, which is really, really unfortunate for him. But that's a pretty terrible take. You have anything else?
Yes, I've got two more. This one right here, this guy on Blazers Edge wrote, name a team in worse position than the Blazers over the next couple seasons. Seriously, please. I don't think there's a single organization worse off right now. I would just like to point out the Orlando Magic and Sacramento Kings.
I would like to point out Portland is currently 7th in the playoffs. So that's statistically untrue.
Well, I think that they're talking about because of our our cap situation as well as not being a contender, but still.
Has that man watched Houston play? Houston is
well, that's another one.
Unbelievably bad. Like, they are so painful to watch.
Or even like a team like San Antonio.
Yeah, San Antonio's treading no man's land either.
Right, because they just are kind of all the time. Portland's better than San Antonio or Sacramento last made the playoffs when we were
6 centers.
We were in elementary school the last time Sacramento made the playoffs.
Who do you guys think is the worst team off? Because I think actually, since John brought it up, I would say either Orlando or Houston probably right now.
I would give the edge to Orlando because Houston is probably going to get Cade Cunningham or Jalen Suggs.
True. Well, where's Orlando? Aren't they pretty far low too?
Depends on if they have their pick.
It does depend on if they have their pick, and it's possible they get out of the top 3, which I think the top 3 is definitely a cut above in this class with Mobley, Suggs, and Cunningham.
Yeah.
Another team that's up there because they don't have their first round pick this year is Minnesota. Minnesota's pick goes to Golden State, which sucks pretty badly for them because they're awful. It might be top 3 protected, but I know
it's top 3 protected.
If it's not,
but with the way that the lottery system works, that's not a guarantee that Minnesota gets to keep it either way.
Yes, Minnesota's is protected top 3, which that's really interesting. So that actually does remind me. So Minnesota just beat Utah, I believe, in back-to-back games, and then Minnesota won again tonight over Houston. So Minnesota may be playing themselves, maybe finally winning games and playing themselves out of a first-round pick and out of getting Mobley, Suggs, or Cunningham.
Minnesota also swept Utah this year. They're 3-0 versus them.
Yeah, that's so.
The team Utah does not want to see in the playoffs.
It might be Minnesota right now because, I mean, yeah. Although I do think, I know I personally underrated Anthony Edwards. That dude seems like he's going to be a stud. He seems like a winner.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
I did not think he was.
100%. 100%.
Completely
wrong.
Really, really good. Yeah, I agree. The Timberwolves are not in a good position. The Thunder, however, are in a very good position.
Yes.
Yes, they are. Any more bad takes, Kendall?
Yes, the last one for tonight. This guy proposed this trade. He says, but what if Philly gets Dame, Houston gets Nurk plus picks, and Portland gets Ben Simmons and Christian Wood?
Well,
yes. Well, what are your guys' thoughts on that? So you'd be running a starting lineup of Ben Simmons, CJ McCollum, Norman Powell, Rocco, and Christian Wood in this guy's hypothetical trade.
So we have 4 of the same player and CJ McCollum.
Yes, precisely.
Yes.
Like, I'll be
that
like,
is odd.
That is basically like Philadelphia this year if Embiid was out.
Yes, pretty much.
I mean, CJ obviously.
Okay.
Yeah, like replace Embiid with CJ McCollum, basically.
Yes.
On one hand, that would be I don't know though. because CJ and Wood are so bad defensively, would Simmons, Norman Powell, and Rocco, assuming we had a more defensive-minded coach, would they be able to hold up the fort? Because this guy also does still have us keeping Derek Jones Jr. and Zach Collins.
See, I don't think we're keeping Zach Collins, but
No, there's no way.
um,
He's missed like 2 straight years.
if that trade was with CJ McCollum instead of Dame, that I would probably go for. Although,
For sure.
I don't know about Nurk, because when he is mentally engaged, he is so good and important to the team. I just don't know and he's had so much personal stuff go on in the last year, which makes it hard. I do wonder if next year with a full season, he's more engaged and he's had time to kind of process stuff in his life. I mean, even in the bubble, he was so good. And pre-injury, we were talking that he was the second best player on the team, that he was better than CJ. And that was when CJ was playing really well. I don't know.
Those 8 games a year where
though?
Nurkic is locked in are really fun. It's just with how long is that stint going to be? Hopefully a lot of the issues do stem from the tragedies that he has suffered in this pretty trying time. So I mean, hopefully it's a lot from that, but he staying consistent over his time in Portland. I don't know if it was the same in Denver, though it sounds like realistically probably similar. But he was really young back then. So it's hard to he's a really interesting piece because he's someone where you could flip the roster and keep him and it makes complete sense, or you could keep the roster similar and get rid of him and it could make sense as well. So he's going to be a very interesting piece to watch in the offseason because it's really hard to gauge how good Nurkic actually is.
Yeah, and it's because you don't see a situation where we trade him and get a individually better player.
100%.
But I mean, is he just part of the possible reset that could be coming if Portland loses in the first round of the playoffs or in the play-in tournament? It's going to be really interesting.
I think it's likely that he could. I think him and CJ honestly could be up there for pieces to go. It just really depends on where the team goes. Even if Stotts is gone, I'm just not convinced. Olshey's so stubborn. I could see him feeling like his hands forced and making a couple moves, but I could also see him not completely blowing it up unless if Vulcan tells him otherwise.
It's hard to tell if they need to even. A lot of the reason they lose seems to be play style. I mean, their play style is so unsustainable. They have a lot of really, really good one-on-one players. And so, they have 3 really, really good one-on-one players, 4 if you count Norman Powell. So they decide to run that every possession. They run the same 3 plays every possession. So it's really hard to tell how good this team is. And plus with the defense, it's been very chronicled how bad they've been on.
But that's the thing though, John, is that we do have so many good ISO players, and would those players be willing to adapt to a new coaching style? Guys like Dame and CJ, who have been playing for close to a decade now under Stott's system, I just don't know if they would be willing or honestly able to at this point of their career change that drastically. I mean, guys like Simons or Norman Powell or Rocco or Nurk, I think that they would be fine, but your 2 leaders of your team, would they be the ones able to? I think Dame could. I just don't know if Dame and CJ together could.
I think they can individually, but I think CJ needs a restart.
Yeah.
I think realistically they probably need to trade one of them, and I mean Dame is just head and shoulders a better player, so it would have to be CJ. I'd be surprised to see both CJ and Nurkic go in the same offseason unless it's for something that's definitely an upgrade. But it seems to be that this is the year of CJ. Like is finally going to get traded. They've been in the same position for too long. They've been in the same position for 7 years in a row now. And And NBA teams don't stay in the same position for 7 years in a row. That's not sustainable. It feels like where the Hawks, the old Hawks that had Korver and Horford and Millsap, that were consistently a good team, but not ever a championship contender. And that's just not really where you want to be, getting bounced in the first round every year.
All right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. This offseason is going to be very, very interesting to watch. Well, let's move on to a couple of our favorite segments. We've gotten compliments on this segment from our, single-digit listeners that we get every week.
It's a pretty strong fan base. Let's go.
Let's flip it, though. Let's start off this week with Blazer Killers. Kendall, who is this week's Blazer Killer? We got a lot of options despite tonight's win. There were still some bad losses. 2 to Memphis. That was bad.
Yes, and actually, speaking of Memphis, that is where I want to go this week with Blazer Killers. I specifically want to talk about a guy who actually played locally for college here in Oregon. That would be Dylan Brooks. Now, Dylan's gotten a little bit of a reputation for doing a lot of trash talking, and he made that point very clear this week when talking about the Blazers and how bad he wanted to beat them both games, and letting them know that he hadn't forgotten about us beating them in the play-in tournament back in what was that, August. And the Dylan, despite everybody saying that he has the most punchable face in the NBA now, he proved his point. He had a solid game with 18 points, 8 rebounds in the most recent game on the 25th. And then back on Friday, he was 11 of 19 shooting, 3 of 6 from three-point range for 25 points. Both point totals were well above his regular season efforts of 16.7 points. So good job, Dylan. You win this week's Blazer Killer.
I can't imagine in watching most of Friday's game and most of the second half of Sunday's game that Portland choosing to go under the screen on him every time when the screening was Valanciunas had anything to do with it.
Oh, no, probably not. I mean, it's really hard to tell what the Blazers are even doing on defense, so that's what's the fun part of it all.
Yeah.
Not a lot, that's for sure.
It's a little bit of a wreck. Thank you, Kendall, for another thrilling edition of Blazer Killer. This has to be the easiest segment for you to pick, given how pretty much the entire NBA seems to be a Blazer Killer these days, especially when Portland's on defense.
But see, that's actually what makes it difficult, is that everybody is a Blazer Killer. So some days I don't even know who to pick.
Well, speaking of who are they going to pick, everyone is always on edge every week to know where John is going to go for popular segment. Where are they now? Last week, John just came completely out of left field with 8-game Blazer Von Wafer. We still don't even know where Von Wafer is now. But John, where are we going this week for where are they now?
This week we have, dare I say, Portland Trail Blazer legend Martell Webster. Martell was drafted in the 2005-06 draft, which is the year before Aldridge, I believe. Yeah. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
And year before Roy as well, right?
Yeah, Roy and Aldridge are the same draft.
Yeah, so drafted by Portland. He only played 8 years. A role player. He played 82 games a couple times, both with Portland. Once he played his first 5 years here in Portland, definitely the best years of his career. Post Portland, he kind of fell off. No coaches. He didn't really play nearly as much. He had 1 year where he played 76 games out of 82 and started 62 of them. But other than that, he didn't have a year where he started over half the games that he played in. Whereas in Portland, he started most of the games he played in, or at least half. Martell was shooting guard, small forward, pretty good for his career. Can you guys name the 4 jersey numbers he had?
No, thank you.
Nice. Can you name one of them?
9.
Kendall actually got one of them right by some miracle.
9.
He did wear number 9 for the Washington Wizards.
Oh, let's go.
Man, we are on a roll with guessing these players' numbers.
Me and Drew are 2 of 2 now
Incredible.
combined.
Kendall,
Yeah.
would you like to try for the other ones?
Weird. So good. I'm gonna go with 17.
Ooh, close. Number 8.
I see. Only
Now-
9 off there.
Now, John, we didn't actually get an answer on this last week with Thrilling Blazer Von Wafer. So I actually do want to know more specifically, where are they now? Where actually is Martell Webster at these days?
Right,
guess that-
right. You do want to see where Martell
Like,
Webster is
If
at.
we're
That's
tracking
good.
him,
That's good. That's
are
good.
you,
I
are you tracking
definitely
him on
know.
Snapchat?
I mean, maybe he'll be on.
Where is his snap spot?
I mean, maybe he'll be on the podcast someday.
No way. In 2015, Webster co-founded I'm going to spell it because I have no idea how to pronounce it or if it's an abbreviation. It's EYRST, an independent record label focusing on hip hop based in Portland. He released his first mixtape,
Oh,
Art,
okay.
spelled with 2 T's, on July 14th, 2016, and an EP on August 12th, 2016. Wow, that's crazy. So,
Martell's getting into the music scene here.
Here on YouTube, we have
I need to know what he's
Martell Webster, I'm Ripe, August 1st, 2016. I don't know if that's the same Martell Webster.
NBA veteran Jason Terry.
I would assume.
His mom is wow. His mom allegedly is not confirmed, but a victim of the Green River Killer, a famous serial killer in the Northwest.
Huh.
Oh,
Very
This
tragic.
is well, Martell's got.
Don't do it.
I just want to listen.
Don't do
I just
it.
want to
Don't
listen
do
to
it.
Martell.
we're just all so on edge.
No, I
now.
just want-
like, oh, well,
I just
So
wanna
how
listen
is
to
that
Martell's
for your
music.
facts, Drew?
well.
I have facts. I just still don't know where he is now, but I do know that he makes music.
At least as of 6
I
years
want
ago.
to listen to it. I want to see if. I want to see if it's better than Dame Dolla out here. Like, who's got
let me
who's got the
just-
Portland like?
Okay, first I'm going to go to YouTube and make sure that this is Martell Webster. And then I'm going to screen share and see if we can get some Martell Webster content here. Okay, let's see. Come play a veteran role with the Blazers. You're an amazing shooter. I played this guy in AAU. Him and John Brockman. We lost by 70. This is dope. Well, this can't go horribly. Let me share my screen. And
now we need our Wi-Fi to hold up.
let's see how this
Yeah, that's not
goes.
gonna happen.
Share sound. I have no idea if this is going to come through on the recording. Can you see Martell Webster Give It Up featuring, yeah. Can you guys see this?
Yes, sir.
Let's see how this,
Featuring, yeah. Okay.
Give it up. I'm new at this. I've been on board like shooting ladders for my decisions I made in my life. It gets harder when the devil is creeping right. So I roll with the punches like I'm aiming at a speed bag. Life is like traffic. A lot of stop and goes
And
like
that
freeze
is-
tag.
it is
At times
not
I be the
coming
first
through
to
on my
ask for
end
some
very
help.
well.
But at times I feel like I'm doing it all
It's,
myself. But I thank God for all of my friends and enemies. Without them, I wouldn't know what it means to be free. I've opened doors to opportunities. I feel like I got the key. And all I showed you was that I love being me. Wouldn't
well, that's 40 seconds of Give It Up by Martell Webster. And I have no idea if you listening at home will be able to hear it or not. But I vibed with, I kind of like that actually.
That is
It's kinda
true.
Cool.
That's actually really
Honestly-
nice. Very nice R&B sound to it.
Yeah, that was.
It's
that was
pretty good.
I actually really like the music, and he had some good. He had a good vibe going there. I might listen to that when we're off this.
Yeah, no
For
kidding.
the viewers at home,
Huh. Well,
Interesting.
John has frozen up, so we're just going to take his word for it. Martel Webster, if you're out there listening to Why Ball Starters podcast,
yes, John.
come on the podcast, man. We want to hear from you. See if you're still out there.
I actually just want to hear him rap a little bit on our show. Yeah.
That'd be cool to get some live music on an episode of the Why Ball Starters. Speaking of the Why Ball Starters,
let's do it. We
have 12 previous episodes, so it's time to reminisce a little bit, talk about some of our fails and some of our successes. We've gotten a lot of heat for our draft in the last week. I'm not going to lie. One pick that was made was in the 5th round at the end of it, where Kendall drafted Steve Blake to be his point guard. I have
no regrets.
I would love to share some names, if that's okay with you guys, on some players that were not picked at any point, whereas Steve Blake was picked in the 5th round. Rod Strickland, Greg Anthony, John Paxson, Kiki Vandeweghe, Danny Ainge, Kenny Anderson, Damon Stoudemire, Andre Miller. But Steve Blake is a really nice dude.
But Steve Blake has 14 assists in 1 quarter.
He does. Kendall, is that your biggest regret of the podcast so far?
You know what? A lot of those guys, they were great players, but they didn't have the heart or the name of Steve Blake. And that's why I picked Steve Blake. I have no regrets.
Damon Stoudemire. It's another one.
Yeah, I have some regrets about this decision. I'm not even going to lie. It was a pretty bad pick in hindsight. I'm not going to lie. I freaked out. I was naive to the situation, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I offended people. And honestly, though, I do have to stick with it, though. And I'm going to live with it. I will learn from it.
At this point, you have no choice because it was your draft and it occurred.
Made me a better person. Let's just put it that way. How about you guys? What because I know that I picked Steve Blake, but at the same time, at least I didn't talk about starting Harry Giles or misspeak my real age.
Yeah, what happened there, John?
Well, I see Kendall's outed me. For those of you that don't know, in our first episode, I said I was 24. That is incorrect. I'm actually 25. No, I'm just kidding. I'm 23. I didn't notice until, oh my goodness.
Until your birthday?
Until I turned 24. That's when I noticed. I didn't notice until like a week later after the episode, after we recorded. Told me I said I was 24. I said it. Don't remember saying it. So that's kind of crazy. But I am 23. That's kind of my low light, is my blatant lie of my age. I really let down my fans there. So I'm sorry, Mom. I did lie about my age. What about you, Drew?
John, real quick, I'll get to myself in a second. Were you able to get into any clubs that you weren't able to get to previously with your lie about your age? Huh.
See, now John just took the easy way out there and just froze his internet up.
Froze his internet. Man. Gosh, what are some of my regrets? I have a lot.
Fist bumping out here.
I should have come prepared. Do you guys have any for me? Because I'm sure there's a lot. I mean,
I know that you picked Harry Giles. Oh, burn.
What'd you say?
I said, going to Eastern Washington.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say?
To be fair, now you're the only one up there at your place, so everybody else left.
Literally everyone left. For those at home, I have 2 roommates, one of whom is Kendall's brother, and they literally hate living with me so much that they are willing to pay rent and power and utilities and internet monthly for 6 straight months and not live here.
I mean, on one hand, though, that is kind of nice for you. You get to you're only paying 1/3 of the rent, and you get the whole place to yourself.
That's true. I have a 3-bedroom apartment to myself.
Who's the joke really on?
In Cheney, Washington, and I pay for 1/3 of it. It's kind of weird, actually.
I mean, that's a little odd. I mean, that's not really something that I would have really foreseen happening to you. 3 or 4 years ago, or even 2 years ago.
No, me neither.
Shout out COVID.
So really, my failures are not so much on this podcast as they more are in life, you could say.
That's deep.
Yeah,
Very sombering.
it's very sobering.
Very.
That's
I meant
okay.
sombering, not so. Yeah, either way.
It's both.
It goes.
Gosh, I feel like I have to have said some stupid stuff on the show though.
Drew, we both said that Perry Giles should play over Enes Kanter and that Kanter should fall out of the rotation.
Yeah, that was pretty
That
dumb.
was a pretty dumb thing.
That's a
to
pretty
say.
bad take, considering
That
Giles
was a
isn't
terrible take.
great.
I do now remember that. Yeah. Sorry, Ennis. I know I apologized to you once already, but I should do it again. You've been really, really good. You've been a bright spot this year in what's been kind of a frustrating year for the Blazers. That was. Ugh. I'm looking through our episodes now.
Dare I say, Enes Kanter's been one of the least frustrating players.
Oh yeah, hands down. I mean, he's a terrible defender, but
yeah.
But we already know that,
Exactly.
so it's not like we're frustrated about that. It's like, yeah, you're bad at defense, but we still accept you, Ennis.
we still love you. We accept you.
Whereas Harry, yeah, we accept you. Join our friend group. Yeah.
That got a little cringe there for a hot sec.
Oh, right.
Anyways,
Some of our highlights definitely include
not that.
Not that. That was a low point. Sheesh. But Ennis, I mean, if you want to join a group chat with us, I mean, we're not going to be opposed. We do love you.
That's true.
Hey, that being said, we have done a good job in this podcast, and we have gotten much further than I ever anticipated us getting.
Yeah, we've had some cool guests on, and we'll be excited to announce a recurring guest soon.
It's true.
Soon. Have some future upcoming guests. That'll be fun. But yeah, we've had some reporters on. We've had a nice mix. We've had, one coach on. We've had a couple reporters on. Had a couple players on. Got more players coming up soon that recognizable guys. That's going to be cool. So yeah, I'm really happy with the direction we're going, and we do want to hear from you guys if you're listening. Any ideas for segments or guests you want to see have on? If you yourself want to come on, we'll probably say no, depending on who you are. But
we're probably gonna say no unless if you play D1 basketball or are an NBA player.
Yeah,
we have very high standards on the show.
Yeah, unless you're a reporter.
Or a reporter, or a former Y-ball teammate.
Or my mom.
Well, speaking of John's mom, we want you guys to get to know us a little more. And, we have all known each other since we were 14 or 13 or so, depending on the connection. And we all went to the same community college for running start, Clark College, Vancouver, Washington. Go Penguins. Unfortunately, that means we have seen each other through some pretty embarrassing situations in life. One embarrassing thing that happened to me, and trust me, this is nowhere near the most embarrassing thing that happened, but my hoop that I had growing up that we would play, I mean, the three of us, gosh, we played hours and hours on that hoop in high school. Until
a lot of hoop out there.
Until one day, I decided to try and do one of those like Steven Adams baseball, Patrick Mahomes flick of the wrist shots from far away. And I just took the ball and I hucked it at the backboard and it shattered. Big crack right down the middle. So that was kind of the end of that hoop, which is too bad because that was my childhood hoop that I played on for about
I feel like
8 years.
In a sense though, Drew, was that like a really empowering moment for you knowing that you destroyed your own basketball hoop with the flick of a wrist?
No, because that meant I had to go drive to a school now every time I wanted to go play basketball. It sucked.
Yeah, the school hoops really aren't super impressive. I mean, there's a few decent covered hoops out there, but nothing really compared to that hoop out there. It was so much fun just going over, watching football, and then just hooping it up outside with your little siblings and dunking it when it was down at the 7 foot height.
Yeah, that was the real standout. Was we could lower. It was an adjustable hoop, which is really nice. So we could go dunk if we wanted to. We could play 10-foot. We would practice our plays that we never successfully ran in YMCA ball. It was nice.
That's true. Drew, didn't you have a couple pieces of plyboard as the backboard for a while?
That's funny. So I shattered the backboard, right? And we kind of just like made do with it a little bit. We would just kind of play without the backboard. And then one day we meaning like I guess I was out with my dad somewhere or my mom, I don't know. But we came back to the house and our neighbor was like nailing the plywood to the backboard. So he actually didn't get permission to do that, but we were happy he did it either way. He's like, "Hello, neighbor. I added this plywood to your backboard." And we're like, "Great." So it worked for a while. Got a couple more years out of it with the plywood.
I had
That's
no
right.
idea that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It actually was fairly effective, to be honest.
Yeah. There was worse things to hoop on.
There were worse
At
things
school.
to hoop on. I really enjoyed hooping out there, but I also enjoyed when we would just go into Clark when the gym was free and just us three kind of balling it up in there. And that was a lot of fun. Clark, honestly, our community college here in Vancouver, Washington, that we all went to, they had a really nice court, honestly, for being a community college. Like I was
did.
very impressed, especially when they resurfaced it. It was nice.
Oh, the remodel was awesome. Gosh, yeah, there's some good memories there. Well, we'll probably wrap it up for this week's episode. But I mean, it's been a good talk. How do you guys feel at this point? This is about our longest episode ever.
I know. I was actually just looking. We are recording for 1 hour and 2 minutes. So we'll see how many people actually listen this long.
Probably
But-
Finally
John's
got
mom.
one the hidden hour.
John's
And
mom.
That's true.
John's mom.
My
John's
mom.
mom.
Shout out my
John's
mom.
John's mom. Thank you for
John's
listening
mom.
to
John's
our whole
mom.
episode.
John's mom.
The real MVP.
Shout out to, as aforementioned, John's mom. Well, stay tuned. Check us out on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud. Am I missing anything, guys? It's all at Y-Ball Starters. Thank you so much for listening, especially if you listened to this far. This has been episode 13 of the Y-Ball Starters. Coming up next week, we've got a couple really exciting guests. We're going to have a
Yeah,
really
we
cool
do.
announcement coming soon. You know, the direction the podcast is heading is positive, and it's going to be awesome. This has been episode 13 of the Y-Ball Starters podcast, and we'll see y'all later.